Today, we're exposing the bacon brands that aren't what they say they are. Some charge premium prices for the exact same industrial cure formula as the budget brands. Some are 3 different labels owned by one company, designed so you never realize you're buying from the same place. One had a 367,000 lb recall at the highest safety level the USDA issued just months ago. And the one at number 1 isn't the worst because of a lawsuit or a contamination event. It's the worst because it was deliberately built to be picked up by people trying to eat healthier. 10 brands to avoid. 4 that are actually worth your money. Worst to most serious. Let's expose them. Number 10. Kroger Private Label. This is the one most people grab without thinking. Clean packaging, reasonable price, nothing on the front raises any flags, so it goes in the cart, flip it over instead. The ingredient list: pork cured with water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphate, sodium erythorbate, and sodium nitrate. 6 ingredients. That same formula is going to appear on nearly every brand in this investigation, and the repetition is itself part of the story. But Kroger has a specific problem the national brands don't. Store brand bacon isn't made by Kroger. It's contracted out to whoever bids lowest, and that contractor can change month to month with no update to the label. The package looks identical. The pork inside may have come from a completely different facility, region, or supply chain. There's no way to know because Kroger isn't required to tell you. Their Bacon Pieces product adds dextrose on top of the existing sugar and lists smoke flavoring instead of actual smoking, meaning liquid smoke extract, not real hardwood. The sodium phosphates are also worth noting. Research published in the journal Circulation in 2025 by scientists at UT Southwestern Medical Center found that high dietary phosphate intake promotes hypertension through a brain-mediated mechanism involving the sympathetic nervous system. If you're over 40 and eating commercial bacon most weekends, that's a consistent exposure worth knowing about. Kroger discloses nothing about farm sourcing, animal welfare, or whether ractopamine, a growth drug banned in over 60 countries, was used anywhere in the supply chain. You're paying for bacon and getting zero information about where it came from. Number 9. Bar S. This is the affordable option. Most people recognize the name. Far fewer know it's owned by Sigma Alimentos, a subsidiary of Alfa, a Mexican conglomerate, making it the second largest national packaged meat brand in the U.S. by volume. The pitch is price and only price. Which raises one obvious question. What's being cut to get there? Everything that costs money: standard industrial brine injection, water, salt, sugar, phosphates, sodium erythorbate. Sodium nitrate. The pork comes from large-scale confinement operations, gestation crates barely wider than the animal's body, routine low-dose antibiotics to prevent disease outbreaks, and ractopamine banned in over 160 countries, including China, Russia, and the entire EU, with no commitment from Bar S about whether it's used or not. No reduced sodium option, no uncured line, no sourcing transparency, nothing. The savings at checkout come directly out of ingredient quality and production standards. That's not a deal, that's the trade. Number 8. Farmland. This one looks like it comes from somewhere wholesome. The name, the packaging, the color palette, all of it suggests small-scale heartland farming. It's none of those things. Farmland is owned by Smithfield Foods, a name coming up again later and not for good reasons. Smithfield also owns Eckrich, Nathan's Famous, and Farmer John. One conglomerate, dozens of separate labels designed so shoppers never realize how concentrated the ownership actually is. Someone avoiding Smithfield but picking up farmland is still buying Smithfield. They just don't know it. Same ingredient panel. Pork, water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphates, sodium erythorbate, sodium nitrate. The classic cut delivers 290 mg of sodium across 2 fried slices. A 3-strip breakfast puts you past 600 mg before you've touched anything else on the plate. Smithfield has paid over $200 million in price-fixing settlements. We'll get to that in full. For now, different sticker, same product, same company. Number 7. Armour, another Smithfield brand. Same parent, same formula. But Armour has something Farmland doesn't: a safety incident on record. In May 2022, the USDA issued a recall for approximately 185,610 Nair lb of Armour ready-to-eat bacon topping products due to possible metal contamination, not a small precautionary pull. 185,000 lb of product potentially containing metal fragments distributed nationally. Armour is the budget tier within the Smithfield family. Less margin per unit means less spent on quality control. The recall is a direct illustration of what that math eventually produces. Smithfield, Farmland, Armour, Eckrich, Nathan's Famous, Farmer John, one company. 3 of those labels are on this worst 10 list. One has a metal recall, one has $200 million in price-fixing settlements. The packaging was designed to make sure you never connect those dots. That's the baseline. What comes next is where the marketing starts doing a lot more work than the product. Number 6, great value. Walmart's house brand. Optimize for cost. Maximize distribution. Minimize everything else. Same industrial cure. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphates, sodium erythorbate, sodium nitrate. The Environmental Working Group has flagged Great Value Bacon specifically for high saturated fat and sodium nitrate, which carries an established cancer risk association. In a blind taste evaluation by Taste of Home, it ranked near the bottom of every product tested. Tasters described it as thin, inconsistent, and missing any real pork character. That tracks. Industrial brine injection pumps so much water and chemical solution into the meat that actual pork flavor gets diluted out. What you're tasting is salt, sugar, and curing chemistry. Walmart doesn't disclose processors or sourcing. The supplier can change with no update to the label. Over 4,700 locations stocking this product, not because it earned that position, but through shelf placement and foot traffic alone. Number 5, Wright brand. This is the premium-looking option. Hand-trimmed, naturally hickory-smoked, thick-sliced, right there on the front. The branding looks craft, the price reflects it. Wright brand is owned by Tyson Foods, the second largest meat processing company on earth. Then you read the ingredients. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphates, and sodium nitrite. Identical to every budget brand already on this list. Higher price, same chemistry. Wright brand's food service line, sold to restaurants who read spec sheets carefully, includes a note that the product may contain smoke flavoring. So when selling to buyers who look closely, they acknowledge using liquid smoke extract. The retail pack claims real hickory smoking. That gap tells you where the priorities sit. They also label the front with no hormones added in bold. Federal law has banned hormone use in pork production for decades. Every piece of pork in America is already hormone-free by regulation. The USDA requires a disclaimer stating this, but it's in fine print while the bold claim faces the customer. Premium price, industrial cure, marketing built to fill the gap between what you believe and what's actually inside. If this is useful, a quick like helps other people find it, because what's coming next? The pricing claims and the legal history is where it gets more specific. Number 4, Hormel Black Label. Black Label, top of the lineup, higher price, premium shelf presence, and the ingredient panel is almost the standard formula with one addition buried in the middle that most buyers never catch. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, dextrose, sodium erythorbate, and sodium nitrite. Dextrose is a corn-derived sugar. Hormel uses 2 separate sugar ingredients in this cure, regular sugar and dextrose, which accelerates the curing reaction and adds a noticeable layer of extra sweetness to the finished strip. If you've ever noticed that Black Label tastes sweeter than other brands, that's exactly why. You were eating a product with 2 forms of added sugar with nothing on the front of the package telling you that. That's not a premium product. That's a candy-cured strip of meat with a sophisticated name on it. Then there's the legal history. Hormel was a named defendant in the pork antitrust litigation that ran through federal courts over the past several years, with settlements reached in 2024. The allegation was that major pork producers, including Hormel, conspired to fix, raise, and stabilize the prices of pork products sold to American consumers. The combined settlements across all defendants ran into the hundreds of millions of dollars. when the company behind your premium bacon was involved in coordinating to keep prices elevated. The word premium on the label means something different. You weren't paying more because the product was worth more. You were paying more because the price was being managed. Two sugars, the same industrial cure, a name built to make you feel like you bought something special, and a settlement history that shows what was actually happening when the price went up. Number 3, Smithfield. Smithfield Foods controls roughly 30% of the American bacon market, the largest pork producer in the United States by a significant margin, and the ownership structure behind it hasn't received nearly the public attention it deserves. In 2013, Smithfield was acquired by Wug Group, then known as Shuanghui International, a Chinese conglomerate, for $7 billion. It was the largest acquisition of an American company by a Chinese buyer in history at that point, financed in part by a $4 billion loan from the state-owned Bank of China. The deal triggered immediate concern in Congress. Lawmakers questioned directly whether a company controlling nearly a third of America's pork supply should be owned by a foreign entity with financial ties to a Chinese state bank. Let me be precise here because precision matters. There's a widely circulated claim that Smithfield bacon is processed in China and shipped back to American consumers. That is false. Smithfield's farming and processing operations remain entirely domestic, but the ownership is Chinese and the parent company's track record in its home market is relevant context. Shuanghui was connected to a 2011 food safety scandal in China involving clenbuterol-tainted pork. Clenbuterol is banned in food production in both China and the United States because of its toxic effects on humans. People who consumed contaminated meat in that incident experienced nausea, heart palpitations, headaches, and tremors. These concerns were raised directly during congressional hearings on the acquisition. The deal went through anyway. Then the settlement. Smithfield paid $83 million to direct purchasers in 2021, $42 million to restaurants in 2022, and $75 million to indirect purchasers in a separate settlement, $200 million total from one company, and Smithfield owns Farmland and Armour, both already on this list. 3 brands in this worst 10. One parent company. $200 million in price-fixing fines. A parent organization whose home market food safety record was raised in front of Congress. The industrial cure formula is identical to every other brand here. The scale of the operation and the scale of everything that came with it are the only things that set Smithfield apart. Number 2, Oscar Mayer. This is the one families have trusted for generations. Owned by Kraft Heinz, Oscar Mayer is one of the most recognized food brand names in American history. The bacon formula is standard industrial, pork cured with water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphates, sodium ascorbate, and sodium nitrate. Nothing that separates it from what we've already covered. What moves Oscar Mayer to number 2 happened in 2025. On July 2nd, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a Class 1 recall, the most serious classification that exists, covering approximately 367,812 lbs of Oscar Mayer fully cooked turkey bacon products due to potential contamination with Listeria monocytogenes. The affected products were manufactured between April 24th and June 11th of 2025 at a Kraft Heinz facility in Newberry, South Carolina, and distributed to retail locations nationwide and internationally. Class 1 means the USDA determined there was a reasonable probability that consuming this product would cause serious adverse health consequences or death. Listeria kills approximately 1 in 5 people who develop a serious infection. It's especially dangerous for adults over 65, pregnant women, and anyone with a compromised immune system. The CDC estimates Listeria causes roughly 260 deaths in the United States every year, the 3rd leading cause of death from foodborne illness in America, and symptoms can take up to 70 days to appear. People could have eaten contaminated product in May and not known they were infected until late July. Oscar Mayer was the 2nd largest refrigerated bacon brand in the U.S. by sales at that time, moving roughly $24 million of product in a single 12-week period. That volume means the contaminated turkey bacon reached an enormous number of households before any warning went out. Nearly 368,000 lbs of potentially dangerous product sat in grocery stores and home refrigerators for weeks before the recall was issued. Between the standard industrial cure and a recall of this magnitude at the highest possible USDA threat level, the brand generations of families have trusted needs real reconsideration. Number 1. Butterball Turkey Bacon. This isn't the worst product on this list because of a safety incident or a fine. It's the worst because of something more deliberate and more targeted than either of those things. This is the product people switch to when they're genuinely trying to do the right thing. A doctor recommends cutting saturated fat. Someone managing blood pressure tries to reduce processed red meat. An older adult sees 60% less fat on the label and reaches for it, believing they've made a responsible choice. That belief is what Butterball is actually selling. And it's not accurate. Start with the first ingredient on the label, not turkey breast, not turkey thigh. The first ingredient is mechanically separated turkey. That's the industry term for a process where turkey carcasses, after all the premium cuts have been removed, are forced at high pressure through a fine CA. The result is a paste. That paste is formed and molded into strips designed to look like bacon from whole muscle. You're not eating a cut of turkey. You're eating restructured meat paste shaped to resemble something it has never been. The full ingredient list: mechanically separated turkey, water, salt, sugar, canola oil, sunflower oil, natural flavor, sodium phosphate, potassium acetate, acetic acid, sodium erythorbate, and sodium nitrate. Why does a bacon product contain canola oil and sunflower oil? Because when your base material is a processed paste rather than a whole belly cut, you need added fats to create anything resembling the texture that real bacon produces through its own natural fat. The sodium phosphate binds water and holds the paste together so it keeps a shape in the pan long enough to look like it belongs there. Here's what will never appear on the front of that package. Turkey bacon carries the exact same Group 1 carcinogen classification as pork bacon. The World Health Organization's review of more than 800 studies made no distinction between cured processed pork and cured processed poultry. Processed meat is the category. The animal it came from doesn't change the chemistry of the cure. Sodium nitrite forms the same nitrosamines in a turkey product as in a pork product. Switching the species doesn't move the classification. And the July 2025 Class 1 Listeria recall of nearly 368,000 lbs of Oscar Mayer turkey bacon, a direct competitor in the same product category, confirms that turkey bacon doesn't carry a safety advantage either. Same chemistry, same WHO classification, a fraction of the actual whole meat, and a label engineered to be trusted by the consumer working hardest to make a better decision. That's number 1. That's the worst product on this list. Now that you know what to avoid, here are the 4 that actually held up. Before we get into them, one thing needs a straight explanation because it shows up on almost every clean label in this category and it's widely misunderstood. Many minimally processed bacon brands cure their product using celery powder instead of synthetic sodium nitrite. When that happens, the USDA requires the label to read uncured. No nitrate or nitrite added except those naturally occurring in celery powder. That sounds meaningful. It's more complicated than it appears. Celery powder is naturally high in nitrate. During curing, bacterial action converts that nitrate into nitrite, chemically identical to the synthetic version. Dariush Mozaffarian, who served as Dean of the Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy at Tufts University, has stated publicly that celery-derived nitrite is chemically indistinguishable from its synthetic counterpart. Consumer Reports and the Center for Science in the Public Interest have both formally petitioned the USDA to close this labeling loophole. It still exists. I'm telling you this now because the brands coming up earn their position through everything else: the sourcing, the farming standards, the minimal ingredient panels, the genuine smoking. Just don't read no nitrate added as nitrate-free. It isn't. Best option number 4, Niman Ranch. This is what the farmland packaging was trying to suggest. This is what that actually looks like. Niman Ranch operates through a network of more than 750 independent family farms, and every one of them follows protocols the industrial brands on the worst list would never find economically workable at their scale. All Niman Ranch pork is certified humane. No gestation crates, no farrowing crates, no antibiotics ever, no added hormones. The breeds are heritage lines, Duroc, Chester White, and Berkshire, raised on vegetarian feed with no animal byproducts. Heritage breeds grow more slowly than commodity breeds, and that slower development builds deeper flavor and better natural fat distribution. The finished bacon doesn't need sugar and chemical shortcuts to taste like something, because the meat itself has developed what industrial pork simply can't produce. Neiman Ranch prohibits ractopamine across their entire supply chain, one of very few nationally distributed brands committed to that standard from farm to package. Consumer Reports has identified ractopamine-free pork as a meaningful quality differentiator. The bacon is slow-smoked over real applewood for more than 6 hours. Actual hardwood, not liquid extract, not smoke flavoring. Ingredient panel: pork, water, salt, turbinado sugar, and celery powder. 5 ingredients: no phosphates, no synthetic nitrites, no artificial additives. The celery powder caveat still applies, but the sourcing, the welfare standards, the heritage breeds, and the genuine smoking put this in a completely different category from anything on the worst list. Best option number 3, Tender Belly. Based in Austin, Texas, Tender Belly takes the craft approach further than almost anyone else at a national scale. And the gap between their process and the industrial standard is structural, not marginal. The pork comes exclusively from Berkshire and Duroc heritage breeds raised crate-free on vegetarian feed with no antibiotics and no added hormones. Heritage breeds develop more intramuscular fat naturally, the kind that creates genuine flavor without any injected chemistry. Where conventional industrial bacon is needle-injected with brine in minutes, Tender Belly dry rubs each belly by hand and slow cures it for 12 full days. Then it's naturally hardwood smoked for approximately 8 hours. The complete curing and smoking process takes close to 2 weeks. The industrial version takes hours. Dry rubbing means no added water weight. When you buy a pound of Tender Belly bacon, you're getting a pound of actual cured pork, not pork padded with brine that cooks off in the pan and leaves you with half of what you paid for. That difference shows up the moment it hits the heat. It holds its shape, crisps properly, and tastes like the meat, not the solution it was soaked in. Their no sugar line ingredient panel: pork belly, spices, salt, juniper berry powder, juniper berry oil, cultured celery powder, water, and cherry powder. No phosphates, no sodium nitrate, no added sugar of any kind. The celery powder caveat still applies, but beyond that, this is a heritage breed product, dry rubbed, slow cured for nearly 2 weeks, and genuinely smoked. Best option number 2, Peterson's Natural Farms. Peterson's Natural Farms out of Hamilton, Texas has become the clean eating reference point in this category, and the reason is obvious the moment you read the label. Their true, no-sugar, uncured bacon ingredient list: pork, water, and less than 2% of salt, vinegar, citrus extract, pomegranate extract, and rosemary extract. That's it. No celery powder, making this the only brand in this better tier without it. No dextrose, no sodium nitrite, no phosphates. The only preservation comes from vinegar and the natural antioxidant properties of rosemary, citrus, and pomegranate. Peterson's doesn't brine inject. The seasoning absorbs through an extended curing process, and the result is hickory smoked. The pork is raised with no antibiotics and no growth stimulants. The entire product line holds Whole30 approval, one of the more rigorous clean eating certifications available. What makes Peterson's the most practical recommendation for most buyers is where you can actually buy it. This isn't an online-only product. Peterson's is stocked at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and a wide range of regional grocers. You can add it to a regular shopping trip. For anyone who wants clean bacon with no celery powder, no added sugar, and no specialty order, Peterson's is the most accessible option in this category right now. That accessibility matters in practice. Best option number 1, U.S. Wellness Meats. U.S. Wellness Meats sets the benchmark every other brand in this investigation should be measured against. Their sugar-free pork bacon contains exactly 2 ingredients: hickory smoked pork and sea salt. 2 ingredients: no sugar, no dextrose, no sweeteners of any kind. No sodium nitrate, no sodium nitrite, no celery powder, no phosphates, no erythorbate, no smoke flavoring, nothing else. Pork raised on pasture, salt from the sea, that's the complete product. The pork comes from pasture-raised, regeneratively farmed operations with no antibiotics and no added hormones. The animals live on open land, not in the confinement facilities that supply every brand on the worst list. Regenerative farming means the land itself is being actively improved through the process rather than steadily depleted. That's the opposite model in every way from the industrial operations behind those 10 brands. The bacon is hickory smoked over actual hardwood. The result is a product that tastes the way bacon tasted before water injection, chemical curing. And sugar loading became the industry standard. U.S. Wellness Meats carries Whole30, Paleo, and Keto approvals with no allergen concerns from hidden additives. The limitation is availability. This is an online-only brand and the price reflects the quality. A 1lb package costs significantly more than anything in a conventional grocery aisle. But when you hold 2 ingredients next to the 12 or 13 on a Butterball turkey bacon label, or next to the 6-ingredient industrial cure repeated across every worst list brand, the price difference stops looking like a premium. It starts looking like the actual cost of food that was made properly. Every dollar saved on industrial bacon goes toward water weight, phosphates, nitrites, and sugar that have no business being in a pork product. U.S. Wellness Meats removes all of it, pork and salt. That's the product. And that simplicity is exactly the point. Here's what you take out of this. 10 brands running the same industrial formula across hundreds of millions of packages. Hidden sugars in products sold as premium. Injected water weight that cooks off and leaves you less than you paid for. Curing agents carrying a Group 1 carcinogen classification. Ownership structures designed to make one conglomerate look like dozens of separate choices. Price-fixing settlements totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. A 185,000 lb metal contamination recall. A 367,000 lb listeria recall issued at the highest USDA threat level in 2025. And one product at the top of the worst list, not because of a fine or an incident, but because it was built to be trusted by the consumer trying hardest to make the right call. 4 brands proving it doesn't have to be that way. Next time you're in the bacon aisle, flip the package over before it goes in the cart. Sodium phosphates, sodium nitrite, dextrose, smoke flavoring, that's industrial bacon regardless of what the front says. Short ingredient list, pasture-raised pork, real wood smoking, that's worth buying. If this changed what you'll look for next time you shop, share it with someone who eats bacon every week. They deserve to know what's actually in it.